Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is Pitfall 2: The Lost Caverns for the Atari 2600, released by Activision in 1984. This game is similar enough to the original Pitfall game where it pretty much feels like it's almost the exact same game. It's just that the camera has moved, and now it's below the original playing field. This game is generally considered to be one of the best, if not the best game, for the Atari 2600 system. Fundamentally, it looks and feels just like Pitfall. Pitfall Harry looks the same. He runs, he jumps, and he climbs the same. If you played the first game, there's little transition to this game. But there are different enemies. You'll get the same scorpion from the first game, but here you're going to get poison frogs that are hopping over ladder entrances. You're going to get bats, vultures flying around, as well as electric eels swimming around in water. You can't actually die in this game. If you get killed, basically, by an enemy, you just teleport back to the last red cross that you touched. And there are a few of them in this game that you run over as you travel around. Basically, these are your reset points. Your goal in this game is also a little different compared to the original. In the original game, you're trying to collect all the treasures in the allotted time. Here, you don't have a timer, and you run around and collect as much treasure as possible just going through the maze. And you need to find not only treasure, but you need to find your niece, Rhonda. You need to find the Raj Diamond, and Quick Claw the Cat. You need to do all of this, and you need to do it all as fast as possible. Quick Claw the Cat actually is right below you when you first start the game. You can see him on screen beneath you on a different level. You just need to figure out how to find your way through the entire maze to get to that one spot and get to him. The game has a fixed map, and after you play this game a bunch, you're going to start to naturally memorize the path that you need to take to get everything as quick as possible. Then it's just you racing to do it as quick as you can. One awesome addition to this game is that you get to swim. There are underground ponds, and you can dive right in and you can swim along. Electric eels, they swim in the water around you. You need to dodge them. This is one of the few Atari games that actually has music through the entire game, and it's great. Total adventure track, and it speeds up and slows down as you gather treasure or run into enemies. It really helps the game move along. Okay, the game. Mostly you are subterranean in this game. There are going to be an awful lot of ladders in this jungle maze. I know ladders don't occur in nature, so I'm kind of wondering who's building all of these ladders and leaving them out in the middle of the jungle. But they're everywhere. You spend a lot of time climbing down really long ladders, or possibly falling down ladders. You can walk to the edge of a ladder right before you get on it, and right at that opening, you can just step off and start to fall. It's definitely faster than climbing. As you fall, you can also press your joystick towards the edge of the next hole, and basically you can sort of turn around and hopefully land on the platform. Granted, you can always land and get hit by a poison frog, but the frogs aren't on every single level, and if you fall with the right timing, you can actually cover a lot of ground really fast. When you jump, you get the same animation and sproing sound effect from the first game, so it's very familiar. There are underground caverns, and lots of different sort of openings and different areas to climb up and get treasure and what have you. There's also an area where you can actually find a balloon. A balloon is going to come floating across a cavern, and you can jump and grab it, and it'll raise you up to higher levels. The music is also different when you grab the balloon. It's clever enough, I guess. Although there's no explanation as to where these balloons are actually coming from. You're supposed to be in the middle of the jungle, underground, in a gigantic cavern, and for some reason there are balloons. I don't know. It's interesting, maybe a little odd, but I guess it works. Like I mentioned earlier, there are these red crosses that appear throughout the game. Just naturally run over them every time you run into them. These are your regeneration points. If you run into an enemy, it's useful to spawn back to the last red cross as opposed to having to go all the way back to the very beginning of the game to start over. So, we have a giant maze here. It's filled with obstacles. It's filled with music, treasure, and specific targets that you need to rescue. If you were to look for an online long play, you can see this game get completed in somewhere around 12 to 13 minutes for somebody that's really good at it. I think that particular 12-minute or so run-through, that's probably a perfect run, and it's not what I would consider a normal playthrough. A normal playthrough is probably 3 to 4 times this, I think. Depending on how much you've played it before and are familiar with the map. You'll need to know exactly where to go in this game to get that timing right. That is not an easy task. This is definitely one of the best games I've played for this system for sure, and it still commands a reasonable price on the secondary market in 2021. I got my copy for around $25, and that was a pretty clean label, and I had to find it online. I've seen it more expensive than that as well. Most Atari carts seem to rate between $5 and $10 a pop, depending on the rarity and the quality of the game. Pitfall 2 is one of those games that seems to have always maintained a high price at the higher end of the spectrum. And it's also interesting because there are certainly more expensive games for the system, but this one had a really wide release, and I don't think it's considered necessarily a rare game. I can understand how a really rare game might be expensive, but this is Pitfall 2. I think the price is because of the quality. Well, that's all I have for Pitfall 2 for the Atari 2600. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on another video.